It's going to say that it's your fault. And no matter how many times people on the outside tell you that that is not true, that this thing happened to you, that it isn't you, it doesn't define you, there will be a voice that's going to tell you that it does.
His mother said, well, you just must not realize how bad it is. Well, the reality is, he just made a decision. He decided that he was going to manage his state. Why?
To sorry. You cannot keep depending on sorry. Better. Better. Much better.
And that's where you have to fall back on process. That's where you have to realize that you literally have to practice loving yourself and that it's okay, that no matter what happened, there is absolutely nothing that invalidates that you're worthy of your own love. But you've got to practice it. You've got to be willing to do it. You've got to be willing to put in the reps. You've got to know that it's not going to feel right, but you've got to know on the other side of that is a vision of your life where you actually do love yourself. Because you took the time to say it. You took the time to practice it. You took the time to sit there and feel stupid and say that you love yourself. And sometimes just putting in the work.
Because he saw the alternative as much more painful. He said, look, I got one of two choices. I can feel bad emotionally about everything I've lost and just make my total life a mess emotionally and have more pain to add to my physical pain, or I can focus on what I'm going to do, which means I can at least focus on
is what you need to do to get strong. So put in the work.
I want you to burn into your nervous system the following statement because it is a fundamental truth of the human condition. It is literally the baseline physics of what it means to be a person. As Earl Nightingale said, we become what we think about. And that's an idea that I want you to hold firmly in your mind. That's something that I really want you to internalize. I really want you to stop right now. Whatever you're doing, I want you to stop. Lean into this video and listen to what I'm saying. You will become what you think about. Really think about that for a second, as if it wasn't just a phrase, as if it's more than just words, as if it were a truth about how the brain works, because it is. You're going to become the thing that you think about. And I know that you're dwelling on a lot of negative shit. I know that you're carrying a lot of baggage with you. And I know that as you think about how things might go wrong, that you believe.
About 8 years later, he's flying his airplane with 3 other friends in Colorado, and he made himself a rather big mistake. He didn't go through his checklist, and he didn't notice that there was frost that had developed on the wing. And when he took off, he crashed. 3 people walked away. He was not one of them. He was paralyzed from the waist down for life. So they cut off his toes since he didn't need them anymore and sewed them on his hands so he'd have something to be able to grasp things with. He's stuck in a wheelchair now for life. Of course, he doesn't look at as stuck in a wheelchair. In fact, you say at this point he must have given up, right? No. Even after his wife left him, he said, look, I don't want to be around a fried cripple. Even after all that, he still didn't give up. He turned around, and the city he was living in Colorado had some major problems. He decided to become the mayor of that town. After that, he decided to run for lieutenant governor of the state of Colorado. He placed 3rd in a group of 6, and he ran on the issues, not on a sympathy vote.
Onward and upward. Doing all the things that will make you better depends on how you think, how you feel, what you do, how you proceed. But let sorry go. We don't need that. You don't need that. Don't be the sorriest person. Be the better person. Lift yourself up. Stop with the excuses. Stop doing things that you know that is not right. Because you can't be rewarded for that.
And he campaigned door to door. Now remember, this guy didn't look too terribly good. In fact, he used to wear a button that said, send me to the governor's mansion and I won't just be another pretty face. Kind of a nice way to interrupt people's patterns and make them associate something new to you. Now, he didn't win the lieutenant governor's place. He still didn't give up. He now has his own radio show in Colorado, and he has found the woman of his dreams and remarried. So I've got to tell you that if you start to tell me, well, gosh, Tony, I got all these problems. It's hard to manage my state. Just think about W. Mitchell. When I look at somebody like Bilyeu and see all that he had, and I look at somebody like Mitchell, who seems to have all these challenges but is so happy, so successful, such a sense of possibility, it becomes clear to me that I have no excuse to ever not manage my state on a consistent basis. No matter how big the problems may seem, you're much better than anybody like that might ever hope to be. So how do we manage our states? Well, one, remember, I believe virtually everything in life comes down to why to first, then how to.
There is no rewards in sorry. There is no rewards in pity. It's time to move on. It's time to be better. It's time to do what's right. Make it right within you. Be strong every day of your life. Be productive every moment of your life. And from the bottom of my heart, do better, be better, and conduct your business.
It's cruel and unusual punishment. And I was a little boy knocking on a door. Hello, would you like to buy a nice working television set? No money down? No! Bam! They slammed the door in your face. And a friend of mine that was working with me, they slammed the door in his face, and I looked back and he was going to the car. He said, I can't do this. And he sat down in the car and he said, you go ahead, I'll be here when you get back. Now he had a mother and father to take care of him. My mother was ill. I am adopted. I was hungry. I had to go on. I learned something about myself. That when you step into your fears, somebody said, it was Winston Churchill, he said that courage is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. When you step into your fears and continue to push yourself to go on, something happens for you. It will enable you to transcend yourself. I went to the next door. You like to buy a nice working television? No! Bam! Went to the next one. No! Bam! After a while, I no longer took it personal. And I began to play a game. I said, well, I know there's a yes out here somewhere, and I'm going to keep on till I find it.
You're learning. And when you're learning, you are growing. You are growing to be something unique. You are growing to serve a purpose. Do not let failure confuse your opportunities. Let failure serve its purpose. Nothing happens overnight. It is a process. And the time will come where you will reflect on the many failures that you have embarked on. And for that, you will become greater than you was yesterday. So keep up the good fight. Keep pushing forward and learn from the failures and move forward with a purpose. For purpose is within you, and only failure is there to teach you.
And I'm not going home until I do. And I continue to knock on doors. And then somebody eventually would say yes. And I said, are you sure? And I would go in there and I would get the sale. When you have something you want to do, if you don't develop the courage to do that which has been given you to do, and you spend a lot of time going around trying to convince other people or trying to get their approval, what will happen is that you will lose your nerve. And other people will convince you that what you're doing doesn't have any value. And you'll give up on your dream. It's an interesting thing about life, I've also found, that if you don't have the courage to act, sometimes and particularly, if you have something special to do, life will move on you. Abraham Maslow said that life is about growth. And he said, you could either go back to your comfort zone, and there you won't find any growth, or you must be willing to go forward and face your fears again and again and again.
Right? And so never allowing a situation or circumstance to define your life, and understanding that you got something inside of you that's greater than that situation or that circumstance, but you have to constantly believe it. And not only believe it, you have to make decisions and choices every single day to put you a step forward toward what you believe your destiny is. Either somebody is in the midst of adversity, or just came out of adversity, or it won't be long before they head into adversity. So you need to be prepared either way. And so we all go through adversity, opposition. I think that's the thing that makes us all in common as people. Right? No matter if you're from London, Atlanta, Florida, California, New York, like we're all going to go through something at some point or phase in our life, right? And as cliche as it sounds, when the quote says, it's never about what happens to you, it's about how you respond to it. That's very true, right? But in the same sense, I think what's most important is when we go through something, what's the perspective that we have of it, right? Because for most people, when you go through something, the person's natural perspective is, okay, what did I lose, right? What happened to me? Like, I took a loss, right? People never look at it and say, okay, man, tell me, what did you gain, right? Even though I know it hurt, you didn't want to go through it, but look at it in a way to where you can say, what's the lesson in this, right? What would you say life is trying to teach you from dealing with this? And so when I went through it, my perspective was, okay, what can I extract from it to apply to other areas and aspects of my life that I feel can help other people? And I firmly believe the quicker you can shift your perspective from yourself to others when you're in the midst of adversity, the quicker you'll get through it, right? Martin Luther King has a quote that says, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing to help other people? Now, I'm not telling you to not acknowledge your pain. I'm not saying that. I'm not telling you not to say, man, I'm going through this and it's hard. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you go through it, look at it, step back from the picture and say, okay, I'm dealing with this. 9 out of 10 times, it's somebody else that's either dealt with it or they're going to deal with something similar to this. And if I deal with it in the right way, I can use it to add value to lives of other people. The funny thing was, I had never heard of the injury that I suffered. Never heard of it. When I went through it, I met probably 10 guys years after that had been going through it, that I could talk to at different stages and phases in the process and say, hey man, Ink, how did you deal with this? How did you deal with this? When they told you this, how did you accept that? And I was like, bingo, this is how I got through it. But I had to shift my perspective from why me to why not me? Can you take the things you learned that made you great in that sport and apply them to other areas and aspects of your life to make you just as great as a person? Man, it's funny. I think the true measure of wealth is happiness, right? Like I really do. And that's not saying that I'm against money. I'm not against that at all, because you gotta work hard, make your money to take care of your family and be able to bless people. But I think it's a lot of people with so-called wealth and they don't have joy and they don't have happiness, right? And I feel like joy, happiness is peace is the most important things we can possess, right? And for most people, their material possessions, they feel are the most important. For me, when you got joy, when you got peace, when you got happiness, I think that's true wealth, because you can't put a price on that.
There are going to be wave after wave after wave after wave of inconvenient that hits you in the mother face, all right? That doesn't matter. People who win regardless of those waves. It's not that they don't have those waves, it's that they say, hey, I can't control what the f is going on. All I control is what I decide in my mind and the actions I take. Some days are going to be harder than others. Some days are going to be a little easier than others. But I can promise you one thing for sure. There will never, ever, ever be a day that goes exactly as you want it to go.
The world owes you nothing. The world doesn't think you're special like your mom does. It doesn't think you're a delicate little flower. It doesn't care about you. Now, with that being said, the world doesn't hate you. It doesn't want you to fail. It just is, okay? You don't know everything, okay? You have to understand winning in business is not about you personally as the CEO of a company being the best at every skill set. There's certain things in my company that I have no clue on how to do, but that's okay. My job is to go out and find people that can do that far better than myself so that we can win as a team. And this attitude of I've got to be the best and I've got to win and I've got to, you know, and I'm the best at everything and I know more than you. It makes horrible leadership. Nobody respects that. People respect when you look them in the eye and you say, hey, what do you think? And then they give you an answer, and then it's your job to decide whether or not that is the best thing to do or whether or not somebody else has the best thing to do. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to not be right. It's okay to admit that you weren't right. And in fact, if you want the respect of your team and your peers, you will be willing and able to admit that you made mistakes the minute that you make them. You want to be somebody who succeeds. You want to be somebody who builds something. You want to be somebody who people write books about one day. You are going to have to be okay with being bad at for a long time. And that's the mentality you guys have to have. You have to be okay with looking like an idiot for a long time. People start what-ifing themselves. All right. They say, all right, I got this great idea, but what if I do all this work and it doesn't work? What if I put in all this time to become an excellent employee and I don't get promoted? What if I put in all this work to become an excellent salesman and I don't sell? What if, and I'll tell you what if, where are you going to be? Because it isn't going to be any better than where you are now. You talked yourself out of going after what you were supposed to go after. You talked yourself out of your purpose. You talked yourself out of the idea that success is cause and effect, not magic luck or magic fairy dust. You see big things, you hear big things, you see people who do big things, and you automatically say, wow, that guy's so lucky. Wow, she's so lucky. Wow, that's so lucky that happened. Quit using the word luck, quit believing in luck, and start believing in work. Start believing in fortunate. Start believing in results that come from your actions. And when you do that and you wholeheartedly believe it, guess what? That's what starts to happen.
It simply means that hard times are nothing more than growth coming to get you in wolf's clothing. I'm going to repeat that again with great love and respect because it's important. Hard times, we all go through hard times. It's really nothing more than growth in wolf's clothing. And the real game of the legend and history maker and titan and hero is growth. It's about taking your gifts and your talents and materializing them each day. And how do you do that? You do that by using every single thing that happens to you, good or bad, as grist for the mill. In other words, using everything that happens to you, painful and poetic, to make you stronger and to introduce you to the primal hero that lives at the core of every human heart. I've gone through some very difficult times in my life, sometimes where I was down on my knees, sometimes when I was so confused, sometimes when I was in the valley of darkness. And one of the things that helped me most and that will help you as you navigate your turmoil and painful seasons of life, is you say, how can I use this to grow? How can I use this to shatter the covering over my ego so I become more creative, more productive, more loving, more of service, more on fire, more of a history maker to humanity in my own unique way? If you look at the greatest people of the planet, the true leaders, the true history makers, the true servants of humanity, if you look at the greatest business builders, if you look at the greatest artists, they all had one thing in common. They suffered more than the ordinary person. If you look at the root of the word passion, it is to suffer. The root of the word passion is to suffer. The great ones suffer for their craft. They suffer for their mission. They suffer for their ambitions. They suffer for their service. So the second point, or the second way to get through hard times, is simply always be asking yourself, how can I use this to serve me, to make me stronger, more creative, tougher, braver, and more authentic? The third way to get through a hard time is to feel to heal. I want you to remember that brain too. If you want to heal it, you need to feel it. People come to me all the time. Robin, I'm heartbroken. Robin, there's someone trying to attack me. Robin, I've lost a business. Robin, I'm dealing with an illness. What do I do with all the pain? Well, here's the point number 3. Feel it to heal it. You know about my 4 interior empires model that is currently disrupting the field of personal mastery, elite performance, and leadership. It's not only mindset, that's only the first interior empire. The second one is heart set. The third one is health set. The fourth one is soul set. I go into it in great detail in my book, The 5 a.m. Club. Here's the point I want to share with you right now in this mastery session. On interior empire number 2, heart set. That is how you turn pain into power. A lot of people say, well, it's all about mindset. Read the books on getting through a difficult time. Read the books on amplifying your psychology. I want to introduce you to this new word I'm offering, your heart set. So when you're going through a difficult time, society says, run away from the pain, run away from the sadness, run away from the anger. What I'm suggesting to you is to heal the wound that someone caused you, or a condition caused you, or an experience has set up within you. You need to go into your heart set.
It takes courage to let things go. Things that hurt you, things that wounded you, things that made you bleed, promotions that you didn't get, houses you lost, the men who left you, the woman who betrayed you. It takes courage to let it go and move on. It's not easy, because you have to have enough faith to believe that what is in front of you is greater than what was behind you. If you don't learn how to move on, you cannot live and move forward, and you will always suffer. Because if that thing's still living in your head, it's going to still be living in your life. If you're still bitter in your head, you're going to be bitter in your life. You have to determine, do you want to embrace your destiny, or do you want to flutter on the ground in your history? Make this decision and watch how fast your life moves forward. If you want more in the second half of your life than what you had in the first half of your life, then you have to let the first half go and move on. It sounds strange, but forgiveness is not for another person. Forgiveness is for yourself. Your unwillingness to forgive others is like you sipping the poison and waiting on them to die. You can't sip the poison of unforgiveness and expect them to die. Holding on to a harmful memory or a toxic relationship exhausts you. It breaks you down internally, constantly. Why can't one let it go, even when they know that thing is not good for them? Holding on is a natural human instinct. It is a critical path that prevents you from achieving your goals. Not knowing what to do next will ultimately hurt you. It prevents you from realizing your true potential. But what happens when you're asked to let go of something that is deeply emotionally related to your heart? It hurts you deeply. Letting go of something or someone you love isn't easy, but holding on only keeps you from the possibility of an even better thing. To focus your energy on living positively and proactively, you need to learn how to move on. These tips will help you figure out how to move on once and for all. Letting go of someone you love doesn't mean you have to negate the truth, but don't let it affect your current path. It's human nature to point the finger at someone else or a past incident instead of pointing at ourselves. That's why, at the end of a relationship, you blame the other person for something terrible that happened to you. Yet, even if the facts are terrible or heartbreaking, you can't let bad experiences dictate your future. Instead, use your experiences as a tool to get you to learn and grow in the future. Practice gratitude. As aptly said, when you are grateful, the fear disappears and abundance appears. That's why practicing gratitude is the antidote to the sadness and anxiety you feel when you try to let someone go. Let go of your expectations and focus on what you have with gratitude. This small change in your perspective will help you realize that life is friendly. If you're able to find the lesson in each experience and be grateful for it, reduce your harsh feelings, and you'll instead appreciate what you've learned from your experience. Recognize it's time. Learning when it's time to let go is often the hardest part of this process. But in many cases, it is necessary to let go in order to unlock the life you deserve. Although every relationship is different, most find that it's time to end things when the relationship is causing them more pain than joy, or when trust has eroded to the point where nothing can be rekindled. The decision to let go becomes easier when you are sure that the time has come and your future happiness depends on a new beginning. Surround yourself with people who love you. Surround yourself with people who love you and want all the good things for you. Remember that these people, either your friends or family, will always be there for you. Find support with those you fulfill, talk to them, and share how you feel. Get any painful feelings out of your system and know you're in an environment of trust. Listen to them, as they will give you an outsider's point of view that will help you see the situation from a different perspective. These people will always stand by you, no matter what. So, let them help you out of your bad days. Take care of yourself. The process of letting go and leaving a relationship can be stressful and lonely. This is not the time to beat yourself up or ignore your needs. If you take care of yourself and take that time to fall in love with yourself, you will heal more completely and perhaps be healthier than you were. Indulge in relaxing activities, engage in hobbies that will make you happy, and focus on finding fulfillment on your own. Refusing to let go will not fix things for you, ever. Holding on only harms your physical and mental well-being and keeps you from enjoying life to the fullest. Embrace living in the moment and understand that life goes on. The key to letting go is facing what has happened and accepting it. Once you're able to move on and appreciate the experience you gained, better opportunities will surround you.
People who are not your children, you are under no obligation to help people. You're not responsible for another adult's happiness, well-being, or welfare. You're not responsible for that, nor should you make yourself responsible for another person. Take that pressure off you.
Take a look at the people that are around you, and if they're not on the side of what's good for you, then walk away.
Why do we care so much about people who don't care about us? That won't be there in the hard times, that won't be there when you hit rock bottom, that won't be there in your struggle, that never call you and ask you how you doing, that never call you and see how your day is going. Why do we care about what they think?
Character is that way. That's why a person with character does not live on what's popular. They live on what is principle.
The company you keep tells a whole lot about you. Someone say out loud, check your circle. See, the people around us, I don't care what your job is, I don't care how strong you are, I don't care how far down the road of life, the people around you, the more time you spend with them, I don't care who you are, you're going to become like them.
Sometimes when you give from your heart, you are empowering people. And when you empower the wrong one who has malicious intent, they got their hand out because they have no power. They're weak, they're broke, they're struggling. Something is going on. And you reach your hand out to them. You let them move into your home. You let them borrow money. You let them use your car. So therefore you are empowering them. They take your hand, and as soon as they get off the ground, that hand becomes a fist, and they proceed to knock you out.
If you've got somebody that's dragging, that's going down in a downward spiral, and you decide that you're just going to pour everything into them, well, then you're going to go down that downward spiral as well. And now you're not going to be able to help them. Oftentimes when you think you're helping someone, you're really just enabling them. You got to detach. You got to make sure you're not becoming emotional. You got to make sure that you're seeing the person and the situation for what it really is. Not what you want it to be, but what it really is, who they really are, what they are really doing.
Experience is your highest truth, and I don't want you to ignore the truth. I don't want you to disown the experience. There was an open hand from your heart to help somebody get on their feet. And once you took their hand, they took that same hand that you helped them get up with, turned it into a fist, and tried to figure out a way to knock you out.
Do you notice that 95% of all your voicemails are a request? Don't you become the 911 in everybody's life. Just stop. Release yourself under pressure. Now her number, I would just block her number. I just learned how to block numbers. Did you all know that? It's the greatest, oh my God. Oh. That's what I gave myself for Christmas. My life's so good right now.
Some of y'all right now are in relationships and friendships that you are clearly being used and taken advantage of. They're jealous of who you are and all the things you have, and yet they're using you for these various things. Pay attention to people and who they really are. Don't manipulate your mind to thinking, you know what, maybe I'm just being a negative person. There's this thing called instincts, intuition, and discernment. Pay attention to them. Don't disown them, because you will end up in pain in the end.
Here's how you know if someone's your friend. You can tell them bad news, and they'll listen. They won't tell you why, you're stupid and why that bad thing happened to you and how something worse happened to them once and, derail the whole conversation. You can tell them good news, and they'll help you celebrate. And that's a really good way of deciding who you should have around you.
We've all been used, we've all been taken advantage of. It doesn't feel good. And when you get used and taken advantage of or manipulated, you're doing everything and operating and coming from your heart. But unfortunately, other people have malicious, evil, and vindictive intentions towards you. And all you have to do is forgive those, but more importantly, learn from it.
You find yourself in success. You lose yourself in significance. It's when we begin to add value to others that we begin to lose ourselves, because now the cause is greater. Our why, our purpose, our why is bigger than us. When you find your why, you'll find your way. Everything changes at that time.
Because once you find that, it puts you in your power place. See, if you know what your life work is, I encourage you to start working on it. And if you don't know what it is that you showed up to do, I encourage you to find out what your purpose is here. What is the meaning of your life? What will be different? Have you ever asked yourself that question?
One of the great distractions of chasing our dreams is this thing that goes off in our head as we're negotiating the price we're paying. Should I keep paying it? Is it getting too high? Is it too much? And you'll have people in your ear, it's too big a sacrifice. You're going through too much. And you begin to negotiate it in your mind. It distracts all your focus. You can't be executing and negotiating simultaneously.
You have to have 7 straight days of being absolutely positive. Not one negative thought, not one negative expression that you hold on to. And you know what? After you go about 4, 5, 6 days in a row doing really well, something major negative is going to happen. How's that for some positive programming? But what it is a test to see how committed you really are.
If you're in your head negotiating and negotiating and negotiating, you can't execute. So negotiate it now. Negotiate it with me now. What are you willing to pay? For me, when I'm after something big, as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral, I'll sacrifice everything else. But I will not sacrifice anything legal, anything unethical, or anything immoral.
A person without character will say one thing, do another, and promise something else. So you never know who you're talking to when you're talking to them. No character.
We should not fear failure, for example. Anyone can fail, and virtually everyone does at one time or another. But if we should not fear failure per se, we should fear failure to do our best.
Do not cast pearls before swine. A very, very harsh statement, right? But what it means is, if you're offering words of wisdom to someone in the genuine attempt to help, and they treat that with contempt, then shut up. You're demeaning your words by throwing them away.
And that we should refuse to accept. You're never just a victim of circumstances. No matter what happens, you're never without options that can get you back on track. It takes courage to recognize that, but I would suggest that we should accept that responsibility because no one is really going to accept it for us.
I wanted everybody to like me. I wanted to be perfect the first time I did something. It's not going to happen. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to hurt some folks' feelings. You're going to create some enemies. Whenever you decide that you want to begin to take life on, you've got to ask yourself, how long am I going to allow this to hold me back?
It's about treating people the way you would want to be treated and doing the tasks that you don't necessarily want to do, but that you know will help you. It's about facing your fears so you can conquer them.
You're so consumed with everything that's going on in the world. This is the reasons you haven't figured out your own life yet. Every website, every tweet, every Instagram post, with everything that's going on in the world, you're ignoring your own world. You can never shine trying to sit on someone else's sun. You can never figure out who you are if you're consumed in everything that everybody else is and what they're doing and the moves that they're making.
Can you get laser obsessively focused almost to its exclusivity, almost, but for an extended period of time towards something you want so badly, you want it like oxygen. It's like you want it like you want to eat. You want it like you want to live, right? Are you extendedly laser focused on it, or do you get distracted easily?
We're to find ourselves, isn't it interesting, to lose ourselves. And we lose ourselves when our purpose becomes bigger than us. To find a purpose, how important. But then to take that purpose and place it in a position that has eternal factors involved is to lose yourself and to go to another whole level of life and another level of living.
It's here that wisdom provides very real, very practical benefits. It's wisdom that provides a sense of life's value and assurance that all the effort has been worthwhile. There's no question that we must take care of our material needs, but a fulfilled life requires meaning as well as substance.
Unfortunately, many people reject what God made them to be. And they spend their entire lives trying to be something they're not. And then they wonder why they're so unhappy and so unfulfilled. You were made to be you, not anybody else. And if you try to be somebody else that you're not shaped to be, you're going to be miserable.
People don't do what they know in life, but what they do is they operate within the context of the vision they have of themselves. How to begin to get a larger vision of yourself and how to begin to make this your decade. Because in order to do that, it's going to be very challenging. It's going to require that you begin to see yourself worthy of the requirements in terms of effort, in terms of commitment, in terms of action, or whatever it is that you need to do in order to take your life where you want to take it.
Of course, the reality isn't quite that simple. But it's not as simple either as thinking that just because you're older, things are now going in the opposite direction. And that while you used to want to do everything, you should now want to do nothing. No, reality is by no means that simple either.
Because you've been through some stuff, and you can help them, give them advice, give them insight over things that they may be struggling with. This is what the love circle is. We spread love. When people write comments and tell their stories, respond to 10 people without you knowing you have signed up to be a part of the love circle. I love you. Tag whoever needs to see this video and make sure you share it.
Credit goes to our awesome patrons who make videos like this one possible. Consider joining them to support our work. You can also support us by subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell button to get notified when our new videos are released. And as always, thank you for watching.
When was the last time you embraced and accepted your true feelings? When was the last time you stared at your reflection in the mirror and thanked yourself for making it this far? We've all been through tough times in our lives where we've made bad decisions, and sometimes things have happened completely out of our control, but we still blame ourselves. Loving yourself might be one of the hardest things to do, because we tend to want to be perfect. We often worry about what other people think about us. We often feel not enough with our appearance, weight, skin conditions, and so many things that look like flaws. But imperfections make us different and special, don't they? You need to love yourself as much as you love others. You are someone who brings you to this stage of life, someone you should treat with kindness and compassion. You need to stop blaming yourself because something didn't happen as planned. Stop looking at the mirror and blaming yourself because you feel not good enough. And please stop comparing yourself to someone you see through social media. The only person who has the right to be compared to who you are today is who you were in the past. When we have become better versions than who we were in the past, that's enough. Don't be too hard on yourself, because the world has been hard enough while teaching us to survive. There will always be criticism and negative comments that could bring you down, and whatever you do, something always looks wrong for some people. But darling, you were not born to be perfect, and it's not your job to fulfill everyone's expectation. You are born to be you, and there is only you in this world. No matter what people say about you, it doesn't define you and won't determine your destiny. To love yourself is to develop a sense of self-awareness and self-acceptance of who you are and what you feel and for what you're passionate about. It gives you the courage to accept yourself with all weaknesses. When you focus on yourself with love and compassion and ignore what other people think about you, you actually eliminate a lot of negativities from your surroundings, which ultimately take you out of depression. Now, your main focus is to put yourself above all blame and negativity. You're working on your development and growth, and you're near to your success. Every mistake or failure we go through teaches us something. We can learn from anything and everything that we do. Sometimes, most of the time, it doesn't feel that way. But if you really delve deep into the situation, you'll get an answer to a question you never even knew you needed to ask. So instead of blaming yourself for this mistake, start really thinking about what you learned from it and how you can take it forward in your life. Once you start looking at it from this angle, then you can focus on taking that lesson with you and growing from it. You will carry on making mistakes, but you'll carry on learning. Just as long as you remember to look at it from a more positive point of view, then you can move on quicker. I like to think it didn't happen to you. It happened for you. Just that small change of perception turns it around, so always keep it in mind. We all make mistakes. Remember this. There is not one human on this planet that has never made a mistake. Everyone has had something happen to them that they feel they could have prevented. Even the people that your mistake may have affected have also been through something similar. It is unfair to get yourself down about something that is just a normal part of life. I wouldn't be writing this if I thought I was the only one making mistakes. We all do it, and that's okay. We are not robots. Sometimes we say things we don't mean or do things without thinking. Does that make us bad people? No, we are good people. And even the best people make bad choices sometimes. That's life. The sooner you accept that failure is what makes us human, those little mistakes will no longer absorb all of your energy and mental space. You need to move on. If you want to continue with your life and just focus on building a future to be proud of, You can't have these issues holding you back. You want to move on, don't you? You don't want to carry on feeling this guilt or shame. You need to do everything in your power to put this behind you and to reach your true you with nothing holding you back. Think of a person that is totally at peace with themselves. They have finally got to the top of their game. They're living a fulfilled life and are confident and so comfortable in their skin. Do you think they ever made mistakes before? Of course they did. But do you think they gripped that mistake and took it forward with them? No. They let it go and used it to better themselves and move on. Lastly, it's love that reveals your true strengths before you in the world. So love yourself first. Loving yourself tells you how magnificent you are. It makes you realize that you're the only one who can support you the most in your time of need. You're the one who is the best well-wisher of yourself than anyone. You're the only one who is the best healer of yourself than any other healers. So let yourself wallow for a little. Feel your emotions for a while. But at the end of the day, shake it off and keep moving. Use the strength you know you have deep down to push yourself into an amazing future.